Welcome back to another episode of Grip Gains Extras. Today we're going to do a Q&A and we're going to jump right in with some questions from the community. On my left hand, as I approach failure, the DIP on my ring finger goes into hyperextension. I've attached some photos from the side and from above. The PIP is approaching 90 degrees and the DIP is no longer in flexion. Since I'm maintaining joint angle in the other fingers, I'm able to hang on without the roller engaging. Let's take a look at those photos first of all. So what we see is at the beginning of the exercise, the hand is in a perfect ergonomic position. This is a beautifully fitting gripper. Then, as the exercise proceeds, he loses the ability to maintain DIP flexion on that ring finger, as shown here. This is going to be a common experience for a lot of people who are new to training on the micro. And this is super exciting for this person because what we're looking at here is an issue that may never be addressed in your climbing if you're training on traditional edges. I was climbing and training for nearly 2 decades before I encountered this exact same issue. Now, for me, it wasn't the ring finger, it was my index finger. And there's a reason for that, which we're going to touch on in a second. What you're seeing here is what I call a lazy finger. Essentially, this is FDP weakness going to that ring finger. I had the exact same problem, but for my index finger, for reasons which we will show in just a moment. A lot of people, when they switch to training on this style, are going to find that they just can't pull with a particular finger. And so what's happening here in this case is that as the very weak DIP to that ring finger exhausts, he's falling back into that hyperextended FDS dominant gripping style. This is really something to get excited about because this here is beginner gains. This is a significant weakness. Like I said, you could go your whole climbing life without ever identifying and fixing this weakness. Beginner gains are the most exciting gains because they are the quickest, the easiest, and the most impactful on your climbing performance. So if you get your micro and you find that you're in this similar situation and you have one finger that is not pulling its weight with the rest, then that's an exciting finding. You've diagnosed a problem and you have a way forward to fixing it. And you have beginner gains, which are the best, easiest gains on the table. The answer for how to fix this problem is simple. Train on the micro and train in that long hold range. We're talking 180 to 240 seconds, because what you can do in that range is I can completely drop that ring finger as you're seeing. Now, I don't do that. That's not what I recommend. I'm doing this for demonstrational purposes. Watch, I can take that index finger completely out with these lighter weights. Once you get used to training in this way on these long holds, what I can do is change the relative emphasis. I can sort of feel I'm pulling more with the index finger now. I'm pulling more with the middle. I'm pulling more with the ring. I can change that emphasis. I can go index and ring, for example. And then I can switch to primarily the middle. So this is actually a superpower that translates to the rock, being able to focus more on those individual fingers. Training on the micro will, over time, increase your connection with those individual fingers. Specifically, if you're training on a crystalline or a granite style like we have, you can make significant gains simply by being able to use the holds and the crystals in a more differentiated fashion. So what I would do is I would do the long hold style of training, and I would focus on pulling through that lazy finger first, with that lazy finger taking more of the weight for more of the time. And it'll eventually fail, like you saw in the photo, and that's fine. You've got a full stimulus to that lazy finger for growth and improvement. In terms of how long this is going to take to resolve the issue, depends on how long you've been rock climbing. So for me, I'd been climbing for, like I said, almost 2 decades before I discovered that I had an extremely weak index finger. It was funny. When I first started using the micro, it felt like I couldn't even pull with it, like it was just doing nothing, like I was just pawing at that roller. It was that weak. It was substantially weak. It took me about a year to get significant gains and then 2 full years to totally fix the issue. So the longer of an issue that you've had with that lazy finger, then the longer it's going to take to resolve it. But now that my index finger is in full form, it has significantly improved my ability to climb and be comfortable using that index finger and engaging with it on the holds. It's funny because I kind of knew that I had this problem, like I did, not explicitly, but implicitly. When I tick marked holds, a lot of people tick mark the spot where they want their index, and I would always tick where I want the middle. The index was always an afterthought for me. That's how I would address the lazy finger issue. Now, as for the cause of the lazy finger, well, that's easy. Let's take a look. This is a photo I took the last training session I did with Jen. Jen also has a lazy finger, but she has, like the email, the ring finger. Now I have the index finger, and what's the reason for that? Well, it's easy to see. I have a very short index finger relative to my other fingers, and so therefore, when I crimp, in a lot of holds, the index finger could not be placed and just simply would not get used in any sort of optimal way. It would always be relatively fully extended and not contributing all that much to the overall force production, not being worked, and the cycle of the weak index would continue. It's exactly analogous to being FDP or FDS dominant. Once you become dominant in one style, it is a self-reinforcing cycle until you do something specific to break out of that cycle. So in the case of the lazy fingers, long hold micro, that's how you break the cycle. In the case of FDP, FDS, it's the crusher micro combo. That'll break you out. So anyway, as we can see here, Jen has a short ring finger relative to a very long index. Jen's index is her strongest finger, and it's easy to see why. It's right there, same length as middle, engaging on those holds in the most optimal fashion, always pulling hard, always getting stimulus, always getting improvement. Her ring, the opposite. And so for me, I have a ring finger that is longer, and I have quite a strong ring finger and a very weak index. Now it's been resolved. Lazy fingers, this is something that is going to be commonly encountered, and it's very exciting when you find it because you've got a weakness, you've got a path forward, you've got beginner gains. That's all exciting. That's it for this week's update. Thanks for the questions. Keep them coming, and I'm looking forward to updates.